they should like and subscribe to Cricket Podcast on YouTube, and click like on this video, click the bell icon, stay in touch, and head over to the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram to follow us over there. And also you can help us out by supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/cricketpod. And finally, last but not least, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. So if you are looking to get some last-minute gear before the season starts, because, the Cricket Podcast team got our first game on Saturday, Easter Saturday, so it's fast approaching, head over to seriouscricket.co.uk and get 10% off with the code TCP22.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you're on YouTube or whatever, hit like and subscribe and all of that, because that really makes a difference. We don't really understand how technology works. We're idiots who like cricket. Yeah, but there's some technology, and that's what it's all about. Right, Max, we're going to talk about today's cricket. Do you want to do a really brief summary of the 400 runs we saw?
Yes, absolutely. So Mumbai Punjab Kings, big game for Mumbai. I mean, lost 4 in a row against the enigmatic, I think, Punjab side, who are either amazing or disastrous. And today they were pretty amazing in the first 10 overs as they romped to 100 for 1 in the first half of their innings. And then it felt like things slowed down a bit, but actually they just sort of kept going at the same pace. And they ended on 198 for 5, which ultimately felt like it might have been a little disappointing given where they were. But when you look at it through a clear lens, 198 on the board, batting first, is pretty good and going to be tough to chase down. But always thought Mumbai Indians had a chance because they do have an exploding batting lineup. But for some reason, they decided to only play 6 batters and 4 number 11s, which ultimately came to their downfall as they looked set to chase the runs down until 2 completely bonkers suicide runouts brought Jaydev Unadkat to the crease, who unsurprisingly was unable to hit 22 off the last over.
No Tawatia.
Even though it was bowled by Odin Smith, he finished with figures of 4 for 30, which is massaging his IPL figures for the year, no doubt. And 5 defeats on the bounce now for Mumbai.
Yeah, and they're out, aren't they? I mean, there's no...
Yeah, that's it. They're done.
There's not really another way of putting that.
They need to win almost every game, and they're not
going
to.
I know they're mathematically not out, and I know one year they won 7 matches in a row, but there's too much wrong with this team for them to win the amount of matches they need to win. Interestingly, Max, actually, before the game, they actually at 1 o'clock when I was looking, so 2 hours before the match, if you don't know what time they start in the UK. The Mumbai Indians were favourites with every bookmaker. Google thought they were going to win. Not big favourites, but by a margin that suggested it was a bit more than a coin toss. So they're not by any stretch really a bad cricket team. But they do
either that or the bookmakers need to sort out their data feeds.
They do some dumb things though, and they've done dumb things in every match of this season. Before we get onto that, and I do, when a team gets knocked out, I think it's always worth. Well, I'm going to say knocked out. When a team gets dumped out, I think it's always worth doing a bit of deep dive about what may have gone wrong for them, where they might be heading in the future, and so on. But let's give some praise to Punjab Kings. They moved to 3-2. Dan Weston's boys. They're not just Dan Weston's boys, so obviously, they're Anil Kumble's boys, they're Mayank Agarwal's boys, they presumably have an owner and a die-hard fan base that would also call them their boys. But from our perspective, they're close to our hearts because of Dan Weston. His heart, I feel sorry for his heart. I really hope he's got some good beta blockers or something like that.
Statins.
Because he's been put through the ringer in every match. I mean, they're so much fun to watch. Max, what do you think they did really well today? Obviously posting 199 is good. Obviously winning by more than 10 runs is good. How do they get there? What's the vision for this team? Why are you impressed?
Well, it was interesting because today wasn't necessarily your standard, at least standard blueprint for Punjab this year, although it kind of went like it because they went fast from the off and they went at turnover and had a great power play. That's not what sort of happened so far this year, has it? It's been sort of everyone's smacked all the way through and they've lost lots of wickets regular intervals, but kept going and got themselves to a high score. Today, it was a bit more considered, which I suppose is what happens when you take that approach and don't lose wickets. Agarwal finally coming to the party, and Shikhar Dhawan with his 70 just gave them such a good platform that a team like Punjab you thought would really bounce on from, and sort of maybe they didn't get as many runs as they might have liked, given that they were 100 for basically 100 for none at the halfway stage. But nevertheless, 198 was a great performance. And then I think we always said they might be lacking a little bit in the death bowling, but their power play bowling today made all the difference. They really got some swing. Particularly
Vaibhav Arora,
wasn't it?
Yeah, really impressed with him in the matches I've seen him in. I think he got a little bit of tap in their last match, but in 2 of the 3 games I want to say he's played, really got that ball dancing around and picked up early wickets, and it puts pressure on a team, especially with a few teams rolling around this league with 6 batters. But yeah,
suddenly 2 wickets in a power play is more like 4.
A huge plus. Yeah, carry on.
Well, I think that's sort of where on the bowling side, that's where it was won, because obviously they leaked runs at the end, and we were thinking if Sky could stay in for the rest of the innings, that he might have done the job. But ultimately, they fell a few runs short, and that's probably those runs came in that power play where they they're about 33 for 1, 33 for 2 after 5 overs, having had a really good start with Rohit Sharma and pulling it back there. I think that was it for me. The power play overs were the difference, and that's why ultimately it was too much for Mumbai to chase down. Aside from the fact that they picked 6 batters and 5 11 or 11s.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So there's a couple of things. Prashant has said something in the chat which I think is really interesting. Never seen an Indian pacer swing the ball both ways in these conditions. I'd say maybe Mohammad Shami would say something about that, but that's really what was impressive. Like, there's not the local talent, or the local talent pool is not deep for players that can do that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I think that was a bad sentence. The words didn't come out in the order that my brain wanted them to.
I know what you mean. It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. But yeah, that's sort of what's most impressive by him. Another thing that I want to touch on, and Cannon Fodder says this, does Shikhar Dhawan deserve the man of the match? Now, I think Shikhar Dhawan batted really well. I don't know if he deserved man of the match. I think that's fair enough. But today what we saw from Punjab was them winning in in sort of a different way to the other 2 matches they've won. Now they are, in the other matches they played, they've sort of been this relentless team that just lose wickets and like keep going for it. And Livingston's in, and it's 12 for 2, and then he hits a 6. Today they played I don't know if it was more conservative. They still scored quite quickly, but it was built from the kind of ground up rather than built on no base whatsoever. And I think that sort of demonstrates what their tactics are overall, and it shows that they have maybe this extra gear that they can find later in the tournament, when not only Shikhar Dhawan and Agarwal get them off to a flyer in the power play, but maybe Livingston or Bairstow actually score some runs, because both of them failed today. Didn't matter because of what the openers had achieved, and the platform they had to press on a little bit later, and Unadkat and Tampi bowling 3 of the last 2 overs. Probably not ideal from a Mumbai Indians point of view either. But yeah, like Punjab, if they weren't, I think on this show, they were always, I don't want to say dark horse to make the playoffs. We always thought they were 4th, between 3rd and 5th best, maybe. I think Mumbai Indians disappearing from the field really opens it up for them.
Yeah.
To sort of terminate Mumbai as well will be a big confidence boost, because people think about that, don't they, in sports teams? They would have gone in today knowing that Mumbai are Mumbai. They're the
even when Man United were flailing under David Moyes and teams like that, you always want to go to Old Trafford and beat Man United.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a bit of fear factor even now. It's to use Manchester United at the weekend, Everton beat them in like, by all accounts, one of the worst football matches of all time. But afterwards, a lot of the media were like, "Well, what a win for plucky Everton going to, or like beating Manchester United, like one of the biggest teams in English football." And then you look at the team and you're like, they're not one of the
Fred.
Yeah, they're like
Fred
6th
and
or
Matic is a double
7th
pivot.
best. You beat the 6th or 7th best team in the league at home. That's not that impressive. Arguably, Punjab have sort of done that a little bit today, but it's still, for a team that have been perennial failures, potentially a point in the season which they'll look back on if they're successful and say, yeah, that's when we really picked up momentum and got going. Punjab Kings, thumbs up from me. 2 thumbs up, actually, if you're watching.
Yeah, double. Why not?
Double thumbs up. Mumbai Indians, where did it go wrong for them, Max?
Oh, where do we start? I mean, you can look at there's the obvious 2 runouts just in the backbone when the worm was starting to turn.
They were going to win.
Right, yeah.
They were going
to win
with
this
Varma
game.
and Sky at the crease. They were going to win that match.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, I don't even know what happened with the Varma run. It looked like it was Sky's call and he didn't move until Varma just went herring down. I mean, I'm not sure who we blame there. Probably everyone. That was a disaster.
Yeah, with both of them were at fault. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Karan Pollard, I mean, don't take the second run because obviously Karan Pollard hasn't run the first one.
That was
but also Karan Pollard should probably run the first. Like he's just jogged the first one.
Yeah, I think both are unforgivable, and I think for a player like Surya Kumar Yadav, that is a disaster. Like he has come pretty close to costing them that match single-handedly, I think. Now, for all the good things we said about Punjab, what you absolutely know is there's going to be a bit of buffet bowling at some point. Those run-outs happened when, I think the first run-out happened when there were multiple overs of Odean Smith left. The last run-out happened when there was still an over of Odean Smith left and an over of Rabada. Now, people might be saying, oh, Rabada, good bowler. He takes lots of wickets, but
goes for runs.
You can score runs off him. He'll bowl balls that can get hit for 4 and 6. And to throw away Karan Pollard and Varma, to be fair, who has, I think,
he's
really
scored at 180, 36 off 20. I mean, that's a really good effort.
I think, for me, and it's a crowded field. The most impressive young player in the IPL this year has been Tilak Varma. I think so. Some people can hit me with Badoni or something like that. He's not. They're vibe of Aurora. Pretty good bowler. Arshdeep Singh's sort of taken it up to another level. He was great again.
Well, he was there last year. Though,
he was. He's old. I don't think he counts. He's a veteran.
He got retained.
But I think for the young players that have impressed me most, Varma is the one. He's a big wicket to throw away needlessly, chasing to get 1 run. And Pollard's an even bigger wicket to throw away for 1 run. If you get caught,
especially when he's your last batsman,
if you get caught trying to hit a 6, I will very rarely really criticise a player unless you do it to like Rashid Khan in the 12th over of the match and you're already on 120. I think as Livingston did the other day. Then I'm not going to come down on you hard for trying to hit a 6 ever, really, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. If you get run out looking for a single, I think you're a moron. And I think that's happened twice. It's
shocking.
It's brain dead. Cricket. That
was the acute problem. That was what admitted them to A&E. But
we should talk.
There was a structural issue behind them being admitted to A&E, which is obviously the selection of the side.
Well, we should, before we talk about that, because I'm going to take a bit of a contrary view here, and I think people might be upset by it. But we should talk about why they were in the position of supremacy, and that is because Dewald Brevis, after looking like he was a complete farmer,
0-6, not a clue,
absolutely humped. Poor Rahul Chahar. Who actually bowled amazingly, apart from for 5 balls. Like he was like ripping the ball past the edge, had the good wrong and going. Did he pick up a wicket? I don't think he picked up a wicket. It was like the cricket's a cruel sport. Bowled that over to Brevis, and Brevis destroyed him.
I mean, he's finished. He's finished 0 for 44 off 4 overs. When you consider that 1 went for 29, that's a decent return.
Brevis, is this the dawn of a new age?
Well, his first game, he looked pretty good, in fairness. We were confused. Well, I suppose he came in because Tim David had flattered to deceive, and that's probably putting it kindly. Didn't really do the business. So they brought in Dewald Brevis, which kind of made sense, given that Tim David wasn't being used to bowl at all. I mean, he can bowl a bit. So if you're not using that, then bringing in another batsman is fine, aside from, what we might talk about, how it messes around with their batting order a little bit. He looked good in that game. Today, to start with, it looked like he didn't have a clue, but that was off Rabada, wasn't it? I think Rabada may maybe have been a bit of a shock from early on, but off the leg spinner, My God, that was some serious hitting. So it's exciting. I mean, obviously he's very young, and there's a lot of hype, and hype can be overplayed. But I'm looking forward to seeing more. I've certainly whet my appetite for more Dewald Brevis.
Can I be the contrary voice now?
You can, devil's advocate.
I think it was an amazing innings, and I think he's really clearly better than I thought he was. I still think he's a problem in this team. I don't think they lose this game if they have. This is going to sound mad. Tim David instead of Brevis.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Surya Kumar Yadav bats 3.
Sell it to me.
Well, so my problem with Mumbai is that they're forcing their best player to bat 5, and that is stupid. Like Surya Kumar Yadav is a player that can hit almost all types of bowling in almost all types of situation. He can be your auxiliary opener if a wicket goes down early. He can put his foot down if you have a good power play. He can go up and down the gears. He is astonishing. You should be building your team around him, not an 18-year-old. And if you look at what Brevis can deliver, in the fullness of time, might be brilliant. Maybe you know the answer is for Brevis to bat down the order. I mean,
I was going to say, why can't they just bat Brevis at 6?
We saw the power. I don't know. I mean, like maybe that is a possibility. Maybe he should be batting 5. But I think the best Mumbai Indians team, the best lineup they can put out there has Rohit Sharma and Ishan Kishan opening. You know, maybe a question mark Rohit there, but he's the captain. He's going to play.
Did all right today.
Sky has to bat 3 in this team. And if Sky bats 3 in this team, I think they win this easily. Batting 4, you have Varma, amazing against spin, and like, you know, that cut shot that he hit off Rabada that for 6 over point. That's a ludicrous shot. I mean, where do you even learn that? Like genuinely, 15 years ago, nobody would do it.
You that shit. No one would do that.
So there's that. Then I think Pollard is your number 5, and I would probably still have Tim David at number 6. Now people will be like, Tim David never done it in the IPL. Tim David's played 4 or 5 matches in the IPL, batting in a super high variance position. Like it's okay to fail there. They've ditched him a bit early, and I think it's really destabilised what they're trying to do. They've got other issues here. The fact that Unadkat is 7, huge problem. Like that's an unforgivably bad number 7. Like whoever did allowed that to happen, you know,
sack them immediately.
I was going to say they should lose their job, and it would be like Jaya Wardner, won't it? Who's won about a bazillion IPLs. So obviously he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. But there must be somebody in the think tank saying this is a geezer with a career strike rate of 105 that we're sending in at 7. We were laughing about Ravi Ashwin and Riyan Parag for Rajasthan Royals the other day.
Yeah, this
takes it to a whole new level. Somebody, Prasanta said, Unadkat at 7 is 3 places above. I mean, I think you missed the 4. It's on your keyboard there.
No, he did. To be fair, he did hit a 6, so he can play. He can bat 10. That's allowed. But yeah.
So I think. Yeah, he did hit a 6. It was quite a good 6 as well. But I think that's a huge problem. And I also really have doubts that Fabian Allen is not as good as Unadkat or Basil Tempe. I don't really understand why he isn't. Why you're not playing the maximum number of overseas players you can, or Riley Meredith, unless there's an injury.
Meredith.
Unless there's an injury to Riley Meredith. I mean, perhaps that's what's happening here. But it's Riley Meredith, even Daniel Sams here. He could be a 2-over bowler with 2 overs of Kyron Pollard.
Yeah,
if you're terrified he'll go around the park, and that
even
would
Fabian Allen or Tim David could do that.
It would still
probably still be better.
It would still make more sense, I think. So there's all those things. Now that's really harsh from Brevis, and I think he was good today. That maybe I'm dropping him from the team, but it is a problem that they're not playing their best 11. And it doesn't matter now. They're out. They might as well just play him for the last 9 matches of the season. Really bet him in for next year when Jofra Archer comes back to save the day. Like they're at that point now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But I'm putting Unadkat at 7 above Brevis in the in the race for what cost them more today. But
Yeah.
ultimately, the selection is insane. You can't go into. I know, like you're like, yeah, batting doesn't matter quite as much in T20 because there's only 20 overs, but you can't go into a game with 6 batters, especially if your bowling attack isn't good enough to stop the other team scoring nearly 200. It was a disastrous thing to do, and they paid the price with their position in plays in the IPL, basically.
Rickon says, Jack, just appreciate the baby AB, and him. I think Dewald Brevis is obviously quality. I think
I'm excited.
Over a full season, I wouldn't be surprised if they worked him out a little bit, and there's a bit of an up and down over the next few years, and maybe in 3 years' time his average is 29 at a strike rate of 145, and then we see the real deal. I think it might be that trajectory where there are slumps and question marks and stuff. He looked awful against Hasaranga's googly. It has to be said. That has to be mentioned.
A lot of people have looked awful against Hasaranga's
but then
googly,
he did take down a really top level leg spinner today. So maybe leg spin isn't that much of a problem. Maybe it was just one ball that he didn't pick. He had a big problem with Vibor Aurora. Maybe that suggests actually he is a little bit more of a 5 in the AB de Villiers style than somebody who comes in against a new ball. There's that to think about.
It's a small sample size.
I think there's a lot more upside for him than Hetmeyer. I think Hetmeyer's been a bit lucky.
Really?
I'll maintain that. I mean, look, we're going to get onto it. We've seen some not especially amazing players score lots of fast runs in this IPL on some good pitches against some quite suspect bowling. I think Hetmeyer's one of the big beneficiaries of that, to be honest. He is maybe a little bit better than I thought, but not an awful lot. I'd still think there are better options. Anything else from this game? It was a pretty good game, it has to be said. It's not as good as some of the other games.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of the other games have had some absolute nonsense in. This was just sort of consistently, quite simmeringly a good game of cricket. It didn't have the Dube. It didn't have calamity drops or anything crazy like that. Any like 36 off and over, or it was 29. It wasn't far off actually, but it was just an overall quite good game of cricket, and it's always nice to see Dan Weston's boys do the business.
Cannon Fodder says if Hetmeyer was English, Jack would be all over him. If Hetmeyer were English, he wouldn't have been in the international team at any point because he isn't good enough, and he wouldn't be in the IPL. That's my prediction.
Well, I don't think he'd be in the England team. I think that's fair, but I think he's a decent player.
Well,
I think you're a bit harsh on Hetmeyer.
No, I don't think anyone that fat is good. Just not gonna. That's where it's come from.
Karen Pollard's pretty good.
No, he's all muscle.
He's fat, or is he just?
He's muscle.
He's
like a workhorse, but a powerful. I don't know. That would make it. Yeah. Right.
Should we move on?
We've got some questions. Thoughts on Tyrone Mills' season, boys? Do you want to answer that one?
Not great. I don't think he's been used particularly in the best way. Again, today, he didn't get. He's primarily a death bowler, and they bowled him out before the death, which wasn't ideal. But yeah, he's not had a brilliant start. So he will be disappointed probably. But again, like the problem is that so many of the basically, there's too much heavy lifting to do in that Mumbai Indians bowling lineup. Even Bumrah hasn't had that good a season. Today, he was half of his game. He was back to it back on it with the Yorkers. The Livingston wicket was a wonderful bit of bowling. Really nice to see, but it's not clicking, is it? The bowling attack. So.
Sorry, there's some funny comments in the chat, so I was reading some of them. Swami. Ranatunga, 1 ODI World Cup. Chiselled 8-pack England, 1 ODI World Cup. Which is
fair point.
Is quite funny. Obviously, I mean, like he might be carrying a bit of timber, but not really by anyone's standards. He's obviously a good athlete to be able to hit the ball as hard as he does. And stuff.
Back in the early days of the cricket podcast, I think we did an episode where we did a fat players 11. I think Arjun and Ranatunga may have made it.
He's probably the captain. There was one more question. Sorry, where was it? Sorry, this is bad podcast. There was a good question in there. I've lost it. I'm sorry. I was going to weigh in on Tyrone Mills. I think he bowled quite well. Again today, I think he was a little bit unlucky not to take a wicket. I think
Yeah.
his economy rate isn't going to look good, but I think a large part of that is a product of when he bowls.
Yeah.
He does do some stupid things, and this is another. I don't know, if there's an analyst at Mumbai telling him to do this, or whether this is just how he does things. But like bowling slower balls in the power play when the ball's old, ball's new, and is still coming on, and the field's up. I think Agarwal hit him for a 6. So and on that occasion, I think Agarwal was either waiting for it, or it was just sort of in the slot. Not a particularly great slower ball. I think if you are going to bowl in the power play, bowl at 145 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just not sure. I'm not 100% sure about Tyrone Mills in the power play, and that's why I think they maybe didn't use him particularly well, and haven't done so far. I mean, I've seen Will Jacks for Surrey completely take Tyrone Mills down in a power play, in a blast. I think just he doesn't get really anything out of the pitch, does he? It's all about the variations where his skills come in, and like you say, in the power play, those are negated slightly. But...
Well, the other thing I'd say about Mills is that his bad days aren't that bad. Like, we might have seen his worst performances in the IPLs already this season, and they're not. Then none of them have been catastrophically game-losing bad. Like, he picks up wickets.
No Akash Deeps.
Yeah, and when he's good. The flip side of that is actually that when he's good, he's probably not going to take you 5 wickets because he doesn't bowl at the stumps enough. But he will have days where he'll bowl
like 2 for 20.
Yeah. Or maybe not 2 for 20. It might be like 2 for 20, or it might be 2 for 25 or something like that, or 2 for 30 maybe. But he's got quite a low standard deviation. Does that make sense? Like you're going to get a lot of quite decent performances,
and like you
with
say,
very
primarily
few
a death bowler
or amazing days.
Yeah, and primarily a death bowler. If that's what you're getting, then that's a really good return, because there's obviously the chance that you go for an astronomical number of runs.
Yeah. Right. Let's talk about yesterday. Your Chennai Super Kings in action. Do you want to summarize that?
Kings. Absolutely. What a day it was for Chennai, and in particular the man, the myth, the legend, Shivam Dube. It all went quite well. I wouldn't say pear-shaped, but it wasn't a good start for Chennai Super Kings. They were 36 for 2 from 6.4 overs when Moeen Ali was run out. Really rather well, it has to be said, by the debutant Suyash Prabhadesai, who fielded brilliantly to his right-hand side. But from that point, they didn't really look back. The fall of wickets, 19 for 1, 36 for 2, 201 for 3. That is absolutely nuts. Robin Utapar, 88 or 50. Shivam Dube, 95 or 46. Sustained 10 overs of slogging, smacking, stroking, runs everywhere. 156 off 10 they notched. And I think it probably, they were even going worse than that at one point. And it was an unbelievable turnaround of sustained hitting. And it got them to a target of 216, which they sort of did their best not to defend, but ultimately they got there reasonably comfortably, despite a potential threat from Dinesh Karthik at the end to take things down. Once he fell, it was all very easy. And it was a win finally for CSK. I think I said they're going to have to win games. They're going to have to score over 200. They'd already failed to win one, having scored over 200, but they got the extra 10 that they needed this time, and they didn't bowl Shivam Dube in the 19th over. So,
what was kind of
they did bowl Mika Chowdhury though.
What was kind of baffling? Not baffling, but like there was a cognitive dissonance going on for me in the second half of that match. Because, and we'll talk about this in detail, because we've been waiting a long time for the day of the Dube, and flipping hell,
many of them have come.
It's well, I mean, this was the mother load, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah,
we've struck
absolutely.
Dube gold.
First one, my dear.
Yesterday, I rarely have I followed an average cricketer's career so closely and been rewarded so richly.
It's like that David Bentley hat-trick for Blackburn.
Yeah, but my point was. And my point was going to be, that it felt like CSK had completely won at half time. But 216 is a chaseable score. The second 10 overs, because they went for 156 runs. I mean, if people didn't see this, a few people do catch up on the IPL through this podcast or dip in and out or whatever, or maybe they've heard about this game and want to hear us talk about it. CSK scored 156 runs in 10 overs with Shivam Dube and Robin Uthappa doing most of the damage. Like, it came from nowhere, this thunderbolt.
And Robin Uthappa was on about 26 off 25 at one point as well.
Yeah, and at half time, that's stuff like this. At halfway through the first innings, at half time, after you'd just seen the last 10 overs, it was inconceivable that team could possibly lose. And then you looked at the score, and it was actually, they've got only, in inverted commas, only 260, like a score that actually we do see get chased sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's sort of testament to how they were on the road to nowheresville for the first 10 overs of that innings. Like, I fully expected them to end up with 150 and the commentators to be doing that thing where they're like, oh, yes, really pressed on in the second half of that innings as they picked up 90. And
they get to a competitive score.
They just blew it out of the water, didn't they? It was incredible. Dube, talk to me.
I mean, where do you start? He was phenomenal.
It was magnificent.
In particular, yeah. It started against the spinners, didn't it? He used his long old levers and deposited them quite regularly over the long on boundary, and that sort of he started, and it woke Robin Uthappa up. And between them, I think actually they took on the spinners really well in those middle overs, and that gave them a bit of the impetus to crack on. Aided a little bit at one point by some questionable bowling from Akash Deep, it has to be said. But once again, the old motto, the old adage, you can only beat what's put in front of you. And what I was just amazed by the power that Shivam Dube had. I didn't know he had it in him. He looks just like a bit of a lanky kid, really, even despite being, quite a tall man. He's got long levers, which he used brilliantly to get to the pitch of the ball for the spinners. But he absolutely smacked it. And it went so far. I think there was one that went for 102. He barely looked like he even tried to hit it. I don't think he actually moved from his stance. He just swung the bat through it. It went for 100 meters. I was in awe at the man. And only more in awe because of, how we viewed him as sort of like kind of an average guy who's lucked out on a £2 million contract or whatever it is. It's
it's not anymore, is it?
My proverbial hat.
Yeah. Like, obviously he's a good player. Like, anybody who gets an IPL contract is a good player, and we'd heard we'd heard rumours on the circuit that the level below, actually I think mainly in red ball cricket, to be honest, Shivam Dube had hit some big sixes, taken a few bowlers apart. But until this season, we hadn't really, and there have been flashes. I think there was one game for Rajasthan last year, maybe, where he looked $1 million. And then there was another innings earlier this year where he looked pretty good. But this was like a once in a lifetime moment for him, probably. It was nothing but the middle of the bat for basically 45 balls.
It was such a good performance.
Like dunking people into the stands, all whilst looking like this, lanky film extra. It was like he's the sort of person at the end of a movie. It would be like Basketballer 2, Shivam Dube, in the credits, and it'd be somebody in the back of the movie playing a bit of hoop,
playing in a little playing at a park in a cage. Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. Contrary to I think what people think, like Dube, or the Dube as we've been calling him, is like a cult hero of this podcast. We absolutely love him. Like, he's not somebody that we wished any ill will on or we didn't want to do well. He was like the guy, or one of the guys that we always wanted to see and still do want to see succeed. In my wildest dreams, I didn't think it would be this. I thought he might, like, at one point in his career, hit like a six off the last
50.
ball. Yeah. Or maybe hit a quick 50. He's batting like, top 5 for the Boys in Yellow, one of the storied franchises in the IPL. Yeah, sure, it's not a great year. I understand that. But he's out there lighting it up. He's an orange cap contender, and he's not one of those orange cap contenders
second
who's
in
like
the race,
scoring at 130. He's doing it at 2 runs a ball, and he's a machine. And I don't think it will continue. I hope it does. I suspect he'll regress a little bit, but I'm going to enjoy the ride.
If he sustains it, it'll be one of the great IPL seasons of all time.
I mean, what is actually interesting about Dube? So I looked at the numbers behind the Dube, and he doesn't have what you would say is like an obvious weakness. Like he strikes pretty cleanly. Well, no, not strikes maybe. But he averages pretty well against most types of bowling. His strike rate in the IPL or for the data we've got anyway is sort of about 100. It's about 120 to 130 for almost all types of bowling. Now that suggests that he's probably an okay player that doesn't have a weakness, but maybe isn't quite IPL elite level. No, I don't think anyone would doubt that he's deserving of a place in a team in this IPL. He's by far not the worst player. But what maybe that also suggests is that given the opportunity, and maybe if he gets a bit of rhythm, he is the sort of person that might be really difficult to stop, particularly if he can find a way to kind of nudge up that strike rate. And maybe we have seen a bit of a flowering. Maybe he has, at the age of 28, developed something that's going to take him from a 130 strike rate player to a 145 strike rate player. And if that's what we're witnessing, then good.
You know what it is, don't you? You know what it is.
What is it?
Dhoni.
It could be Dhoni. Yeah.
All Dhoni.
Yeah, the mentor. Yeah. The mentor.
Yeah.
From RCB's point of view, I mean, the wheels come off at some point for them every season, don't they?
Yeah.
It just happened to be the day. CSK.
It's just whether this is a quick roadside flat tire, get the spare out and carry on, or the axle split. It's that's the question.
I suspect it's probably it's probably the former. There's a big miss, wasn't there? That Harshal Patel wasn't there. I think he's had a family bereavement.
Yeah, it was his sister.
He's left the bubble. Will be away for this game. I don't know if he'll be back for the next one either.
Yeah. I did a 3-day quarantine coming back into the bubble, so it'll probably. I don't know when he's back, but he might miss another one.
I did think that RCB looked pretty listless in the middle overs without Harshal, though. I think we've seen him bowl like the 11th over quite regularly. So just after the sort of turn, when teams start to do the thing that CSK did,
when CSK kicked off,
he's come in and like sort of bowled wicket maidens or an over that goes for one, that kind of thing. And RCB, they were unable to replace him. What do they have? Shabazz Ahmed sending down over
Maxwell.
I mean, with the greatest respect in the world for those two players, and they have a time and a place. They do have a time and a place. Maxwell particularly has shown that he's a fairly capable bowler if you put him in the right situation. They're not Harshal Patel. Harshal Patel could basically bowl to anyone at any time, and I would back him. I think I said on this show on Sunday night, I think he might be the best bowler in the IPL at the moment, or at least the best at the role he's doing, that kind of death overs type specialist. And it threw them out of whack quite significantly, I think. Hasaranga bowled the 19th over. Hazelwood had the 20th. Hazelwood's a good bowler, but I don't know if he's a death bowler. Siraj is having a weird season. I don't know what's happened to him.
He's gone back to 2019.
I think like whatever happened in South Africa got in his head or something. The whole stump situation. But yeah, so hopefully we see Harshal back pretty soon. When he's in that team, I think RCB are maybe the best team I've seen in the IPL. You know, not 100% sure. Maybe we want to see a bit more from their batting, but their bowling unit looks awesome with him in it. Didn't look awesome without him.
It's for RCB losing Harshal Patel's probably similar to CSK losing Deepak Chahar. It's that level of importance.
I think it's bigger.
I expect.
I think Deepak Chahar, what he does is he radically affects 3 or 4 games a season by taking 2 or 3 points in the power play.
I mean, CSK have got nothing in the power play at the moment. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, especially as even their backup for Deepak Chahar, Deshpande, is out at the moment as well. So I mean, they're in real trouble. You know, that Mukesh Chowdhury is a poor boy. I do feel for him. He had not only did he not bowl very well, he dropped 2 absolutely unforgivable catches in the field. So that's a massive loss for them. But I think like supposedly RCB have at least got something that they can fall back on. Maybe not in the same role as Harshal Patel, but they've got a bunch of other bowlers they can rely on to do the job elsewhere.
Not as well, are they? I mean, like he's amazing, Harshal. I love watching him bowl. I think he's one of my favourite people to watch bowl as well. So I want to see Benny Howell. I mean, Benny Howell isn't as good as Harshal Patel. I mean, let's be clear. But that's why I sort of want to see him in for the Punjab Kings. Yeah, I just think he's a better player, and I think he's a bit closer to what Harshal Patel's doing. That sort of fast spin stuff. Doesn't bowl as quickly, but Benny Howell much better player than Odin Smith from what I've seen of the pair of them. And I think it's just slightly odd that you're seeing Harshal Patel do so well. You have let's say 80% of a player, 80% of a Harshal Patel in your team. Like, nah, we'll play O'Dear Smith. We didn't actually talk about O'Dear Smith giving Dewald Brevis, a 19-year-old, the send-off after he'd been round the park. Like, that was...
No.
Yeah.
That was low.
Yeah. Johnny Sins, there's a man in the chat, offered us $5,000, which is definitely a real offer, Max, to go on a video. So we'll take that up. You just submit it as a super chat right now. But actually, if anyone wants to submit a super chat to us, we're always up for that. We'll read out your questions. Max, anything else from yesterday's match? Lots of runs. Dinesh Karthik was quite good again.
Yeah, he's had a really good season, I think. What is he now? 36?
Yeah, back in the India side for you?
Probably not quite. Although he'd do a pretty good job as captain, I expect. But he's like I think you said before, Dinesh Karthik is the guy everyone wants to do well. He seems like a good bloke. He's come over and done some stuff on Sky Sports Comms in the UK and been widely positively received in his excellent clothing choices as well. He's sartorially elegant. And really nice to see him having a second wind with RCB after struggled a bit the last couple of years at KKR, didn't he? And then, gave the captaincy to Owen Morgan and it was all a bit iffy. So he's been great. And he's really important as well, not just in terms of with the bat and behind the stumps, but in organising the troops. I think there's a really nice sort of comparison you can make between how CSK and RCB are coping with their new captains. Because obviously Faf and Jadeja both basically, when it comes to the crunch overs, will be on the boundary because they're unbelievable catches and they take almost everything that comes to them, apart from the last ball of the game yesterday, where Faf dropped a fairly simple one. But that leaves a job to do close to the wicket in terms of organising the field and having a good view of things. And Dinesh Karthik has stepped up and done that really well for RCB. And I feel like Dhoni is leaving things a bit more to Jadeja, which might not be working now. I feel like he might need to step in a bit more.
I feel like Dhoni's
ease
kind
the
of
transition.
Doing that. I think Dhoni's a bit of a backseat driver, if I'm honest.
You reckon?
Yeah. I mean, I think that obviously there was no transition plan. It's a hospital pass for Jadeja. I don't know if Jadeja was like desperate to be the captain. I'd never heard him say anything like that. But when you watch them, Dhoni seems to be like moving people around and stuff like that. And then Jadeja sort of standing. Jadeja isn't even in the outfield. He's like extra cover. And Dhoni's...
Yeah. I mean, it was a surprise. It was a surprise decision when I heard it. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. But it is what it is.
I had a final... Oh, yes, this was it. I'm going to put it to you, Max, that Royal Challengers Bangalore are the most likeable team in the IPL this season.
Okay.
So I'm thinking
why,
we've got
why is that?
We've got Glenn the Big Show Maxwell.
Yeah.
Likeable guy. Dinesh Karthik.
Tick.
Love him. Hasaranga. There's nobody having more fun than Hasaranga at the IPL.
No, that's true.
We have Harshal Patel. Great fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the business. Who am I looking at beyond that? There are a couple of marginals. Virat Kohli, a bit Marmite. Some people love him. Some people hate him. Not as captain. I think it's kind of better.
Yeah, there's less of the camera on him now.
You get less.
You kind of forget he's there a bit.
You get less Mourinho Kohli, don't you? And you see more of the good side. Faf du Plessis, he has a box named the Beast.
Yeah, that's true.
That is good. That is a good thing. Hazelwood, kind of marginal on Hazelwood. I don't really like his haircut, but he's done nothing else to offend me.
It's not a mullet, so that's fine.
Now, Siraj, he's kind of a Ross player. I reckon Siraj loves. Yeah, you're giving it the thumbs down. I reckon Ross likes that. So that's a bit of give and take on there. And this is a really awkward way to get Soyash. I get this wrong, but I'm going to try my best. Prabhadesai.
Sounds good to me.
In as well as they've got their own little breakout star. They've got their Badoni.
They've got their Tilak Varma.
Their baby Varma.
And again, he looked good. He looked really good yesterday.
Yeah.
And in particular, he looked good in the field. I mean, the run out was great. He took a really good catch off a no ball as well. And he showed a lot of energy, good hands. I was impressed. But yeah, looked good with the bat. So, I mean, yeah, they look decent, don't they? RCB. They're a good all-round side. It's just Akash Deep is the glaring issue there.
Yeah. We're going to get people. Siraj, you've given it the thumbs down. Like, obviously, if you're Indian, Siraj is a legend.
Yeah.
We're on the other side of that.
I find him too over the top with the antics.
Too in your face.
I mean, he's an unbelievable bowler. Like particularly with the red ball, I think he's absolutely class. But I just think he's too. Yeah, he's a bit too like Ben Stokesy, you know.
I can get that. Yeah. I can see what you mean. I mean, he hasn't punched anyone outside a nightclub.
No, that's true. That is true. Yeah.
But yes. Right. Yeah. But so there's that. I'm going to say RCB most likable team in the IPL. Come at me.
Okay. Yeah. I can't off the top of my head argue with it. Although I do kind of like Gujarat Titans just because they've got Tuatia. I mean,
yeah. Hardik rubs me up the wrong way.
Does he? No, I quite like Hardik.
I just don't like him like swearing at his teammates for like run-outs he caused and stuff like that. He's having a good season. He's hard. Well, he's having a good ball season, having a iffy bat season, but he's adapted to captaincy quite well. I think is what I mean. Should we talk about them before we do?
Let's do that.
Well, I mean, sorry, I should have said before we talk about them. What we need to say is that we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Max, our cricket season starts on Saturday. I'm buying some new spikes. I'm getting them from Serious Cricket. Painter shoes, they're just in. You get gloves, you can get whatever you need. I need shoes. 10% off using the code TCP22. It's our way of saying thanks to you for being a supporter. And I don't know, I guess if you buy something from them, it's your way of saying I needed some cricket gear.
and I'll gladly take it for slightly cheaper than it would otherwise have been.
Exactly. And we're also on Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. From £4 a month, you get access to our exclusive Discord. You get bonus shows, one a month of those, Q&As, IPL ball by ball data. There's some other tiers as well. You get a little bit more. It's really fun to hang out though, basically. Both of those are in the show notes, so get clicking. We're up to nearly 40 patrons. We want to get to 50. I think we can get to 50 by the end of the IPL. Let's get half century.
Nice early half century.
Yeah, we want to get half century.
Get the eye in for the season.
Exactly, yeah. By the time the IPL ends, it'll be the 30th of May. It's like getting to 1,000 runs in the championship by the end of May. We want to get to 50 patrons by the end of May. Can I buy talent? Says Akash V in the chat. Don't know what that means. You can buy a Patreon subscription though. £4 a month. That's about 400 rupees. $5, $7 Aussie dollars.
We'll have a word with Tom from Serious Cricket and ask if they've got any talent coming in.
Yeah,
I think so. I'm guessing so. Yeah.
That makes sense. Cool. And hit like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. That also makes a big difference. If you
algorithm.
You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to give us money. Both of those things we like, but thinking, I kind of like where you're going with this show, but you've got to adjust your opinions on Hetmeyer. Then what you need to do is hit subscribe, because eventually, if he keeps doing it, I'm not going to keep denying it.
And send Jack a strongly worded letter to his address.
Yeah, it's in Peckham, London.
He'll find it there.
Flat 5162 Rye Lane. No one's going to find me. So
we'll see.
It's not even a numbered door.
It's got lots of graffiti on it.
They cleaned that up, but a crackhead broke in the other day. It's mad, isn't it? In London, you just sort of accept that sort of thing. That like there was a guy doing crack in the post room of the flat block of flats I live in, and I had to be like,
there was a drive-by shooting in my local Sainsbury's. Support us on Patreon so we can move to safe gated communities where none of this happens.
Exactly. Exactly right, Max. The final game. The bringing up the rear, as they often do. Sunrisers Hyderabad. Taking on Gujarat Titans. Gujarat batted first. I wasn't blown away with what Gujarat did, to be honest.
No.
I wasn't blown away with what anyone did, to be honest. They posted 162. Sunrisers, despite being on 11 off 4 overs, an interesting tactical choice when you need 8 and over.
Yeah.
They chased it down fairly comfortably. 5 balls to spare.
They did. I mean, they won by 8 wickets, 5 balls to spare, but 2 overs before that, it did look like they might be struggling. And when you've got 8 wickets in the house, and you're possibly not going to chase down 162, it just sort of, for me, epitomizes what we don't really like very much about Sunrisers as a team. And it kind of took a really bad over from Lockie Ferguson for the game to
he was
be
bad,
safe. I mean, he came in, it was Nicholas Puran, wasn't he? He finished in 34 of 18, but he came in and bowled 3 balls in exactly the same place, which were half trackers, outside leg stump, which were very easily flicked away for boundaries. And that took them back from needing, about 11 and over off the last 2 or 3 to walking home comfortably. So, I mean, it was comfortable in the end, but they almost messed it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of poor quality cricket in this match, I'm going to be honest. Before the tournament, I think we predicted both of these teams would be down the bottom of the table. Mumbai have stolen a march on that particular front, but I wouldn't be surprised to see both slide out of contention. I know Gujarat won their first 3 matches. We're seeing the Ahmedabad boys and emphasis on bad, or we saw the Ahmedabad boys with the emphasis on bad. There's a few things that I think, to illustrate this, or to talk about this in a little bit more detail. 20 wides, Sunrisers bowled.
I mean, that's unforgivable.
A few of them were 5 wides. It wasn't 20 individual terrible deliveries. Even so, though, the Titans, they only managed to score 140 runs off the bat in their entire innings. Matt Wade, disaster opening the batting. 19 off 19 again. That's a good innings from Matt Wade. That's a good innings. Shubman Gill goes early. He's been an amazing. He's been.
I mean, two of those wins have been built by Shubman Gill scoring 90.
He goes. I'm not sold on the number 3, Citizen. With that. Hardik Pandya at 4, playing this kind of weird anchor role. 50 for 42. It's not the first time he's batted like this.
Very strange. Very strange.
To give him maybe slightly the benefit of the doubt here, next guy is David Miller, who hasn't been good since about the 18th century. And then I think Manohar's a good player, and they're probably batting him too far down the order here. But also quite unproven in the IPL. And then Twatia, who they obviously don't really trust, even though he has won them 2 matches. Because they're sending him in at like 6 or 7 in every match. Or 8, I think, maybe in one match. And not letting him bowl. So if we go through that order again, Wade, rubbish. Sudarshan, not really sold on that. Hardik Pandya can't play number 4 or can't be, Tilak Varma or Hardik Pandya, who do you want in your team tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, Hardik Pandya's not a number 4.
No, but who batting number 4 for your team tomorrow?
Batting number 4, I'll have Tilak Varma, yeah 100%.
So that's a problem, isn't it?
As a batsman, obviously, we'll ignore the bowling.
Yeah. David Miller, useless. I don't know what they need to find a way. They need to put Manohar somewhere, I think. But this is sort of what I expected from Gujarat, was like a lot of listless cricket. I mean, they only actually lost 4 wickets going into the 18th over, so they end up 7 down, and it's like 162 for 7. Looks like it used all their resources. But like, Twatia doesn't come in till right at the end, and it's like, what's the point of having this guy that you're going to use as a hitter, and has actually shown that he could do the job this season?
It's opportunity cost, isn't it?
Sending him in. Rashid Khan faces 1 ball. I mean, actually, Manohar, Twatia, Rashid Khan, Mumbai Indians would kill for that as their lower order. They would literally. They would have done today. They would kill somebody to have that as their lower order, but they don't. But Gujarat, because of the way they played, don't really get to exhibit any of that talent. And then the Sunrisers come in and take the win, but. they were dropping catches for fun. Already said the 20 wides point. They were on 11 off 4 overs in the power play. They've got an opening batter in Williamson, who is doing everything he can possibly do to try and convince us the Sunrisers management that they made a mistake in letting Rashid Khan and keeping him. Like he couldn't be making it clearer that was wrong. And yet they've won. Williamson hits 4 sixes. Nicholas Pooran gets 34 off 18 balls. So cricket.
Pooran's back, baby.
I didn't think either were very good. I wouldn't be surprised to see. Actually, still wouldn't be surprised to see both teams be right down the bottom at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at Mumbai Indians, and realistically, they've lost 5. They could have won 3 of those 5. I mean, the first game against Delhi Capitals, we've been through the Akshar Patel once in a lifetime performance and Bumrah off his game. Today, 2 suicidal runouts, poor team selection. I think you can argue that they should have won that. And what was it? Was it Rajasthan Royals, the other one that arguably they let slip? I can't remember, but there was another one that they arguably should have won, and it could be all very different. And I think the Sunrisers, their 2 wins is a pretty good haul from their first opening games after what we've seen. But you never know; they could be the Greece of the Euro 2004.
All right, we're going to wrap up the show. We just did our plugs, but if you want to come and follow the action on Twitter as well, actually, there's always something going on there at the Cricket Pod. Thanks we've had a good lively chat today on the YouTube videos. Thank you for participating there. If you're over there, like, subscribe. You know the drill by now. Helps us out. Max, any final words from you?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well,
just goodbye and thanks for watching.
We're back Friday. We're back Sunday after that. We're back Wednesday after that, and then we're back Friday.
That's the schedule. Yeah,
that's kind of... there is one day where we actually have a game. We're playing. Oh, our season kicks off on Saturday. We didn't talk about that at all. We can talk about that on Friday.
Mentioned it briefly.
Oh, Vic London's here in the chat. Better late than never, Vic. Goodbye.